When you think of Polyphia, most modern guitarists point to the same few things. Ridiculous technical ability, math rock meets trap, that spanky split coil crunch tone, and sure that's true, but it's not an explanation because if it was, Polyphia would be easy to imitate. Yet so many players can learn the notes, copy the tone, even nail the technique, and still can't write songs that sound like Polyphia. So what are they missing? What's up everyone, my name is Eric Gerber and welcome to my very first Cypher Lab Session, a recurring series where I decipher modern guitar forward songs in order to help you write and finish more of your own songs. Today we are focusing on Polyphia, one of the most influential guitar forward bands to emerge from the modern instrumental scene. Is Polyphia's main draw their technicality? Not at all. In my opinion, yes, the technicality is a part of it, but there's so much more to it. Let's take their song GOAT, or GOAT, as an example. Be honest, does that sound insanely technical compared to a lot of other math rock guitar? Not really. Does it scream trap without the production layers? Also not really. And the split coil crunch tone? That's not exclusive to Polyphia, it's basically the whole math rock language. Yet the moment you hear GOAT, it instantly, undeniably is Polyphia. Why? If it's not just the shredding, not just the trap influence, and not just the split coil tones, what makes them so identifiably them? To answer that properly, we need to dissect this into what I believe to be the 7 core elements of a band's sound. Melody, chords, rhythm, expression and technique, arrangement and instrumentation, production elements, and cohesion. Once you see how these pieces interact in their music, the Polyphia effect stops feeling like magic and starts feeling like a formula you can use to influence your own music. Not to copy them, but to better understand them so they can inform your own unique sound. In this video, I'm using GOAT as the case study, and we're going to dissect the sound from the inside out. To be clear, I don't think one single song can sum up a band's entire musical identity and evolution, but iconic songs like this do help uncover a large piece of the puzzle. One quick thing before we jump into the video. If you find this helpful, be sure to grab my free guide, The Modern Guitarist Song Finisher Roadmap, specifically created to help you finish more songs more often. I'll put the link to that in the description as well as the time code so you can skip ahead to any of the chapters you like. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. Melody, scales and interval choices. One of Polyphia's biggest superpowers is that they write simple, catchy melodies that still sound modern and high status. And GOAT is no exception. Tim Henson himself even said that the intro riff is based on a simple 8th note bell melody. But what makes them different is what they do with those simple melodies. They use them as an anchor and then build more complex playing around that without losing or drowning out the main melody.
On the 4th time that you're like, oh, my brain recognizes the original phrase.
Okay, so the core melodies are simple, but what notes do they use? Let's take another listen to GOAT's melody. What intervals are we hearing here? 1, 5, 8, flat 6, 5, 8, flat 3, flat 6. So it's essentially just using the minor scale with a bit more emphasis on the flat 6 interval. Since the 1 and 5 are present in almost every common scale, our main scale-defining notes here are really just the flat 3 and the flat 6, a classic formula for that serious, slightly sad minor sound present in so many metal riffs and licks. So that in itself is nothing special, but here's where it gets a bit more interesting. During the GOAT riff, Tim Henson often plays the A sharp, which is the raised 7th in our key here, which is B minor by the way. This gives us the harmonic minor scale. We find harmonic minor in a lot of neoclassical metal and also flamenco, what a lot of people call Spanish guitar, which is probably why their recent segue to classical guitars felt so natural. And it's not just goat. You can hear the harmonic minor sound in so many other songs, from New Levels, New Devils, and Remember That You Will Die. You could almost say that it's become one of the defining factors of Polyphia's more recent sound. In terms of notes and interval choices, let's look at what else is happening melodically in goat. Here's a heat map of the total amount of notes used in this riff, simplified to just one octave. As you can see, we have the 1 and the 5 being used the most, very neutral note choices. Then the flat 3, flat 6, and 2, which are our minor scale fundamental notes, happening slightly less frequently. And then finally we have the 4 and natural 7 played only occasionally. What does this tell us? They like to play stable, neutral notes the most, emphasizing that serious, sad minor sound I mentioned before, with the neoclassical/flamenco sound being added every now and then for that extra flavor. Now you might be thinking, but Eric, these are just 7 notes. I can clearly see them playing way more than that. Yes, true. That's because of the types of interval jumps that they prefer. And this is probably the most important thing about their playing besides the harmonic minor sound. They love making large interval jumps between notes, often an octave or more apart. Let me show you what I mean. So there's our first interval jump. So we got minus 7th down plus an extra octave. So almost 2 octaves gap between these two notes. And then we got this a 15th, which is an octave plus an additional 3rd up. Then we got this tapping line happening, which is, if you take it from this low note, it's a minus 6th plus an additional octave up. And then that is essentially 2.5 octaves in gap. So lots of big gaps everywhere. This type of playing stems from intervallic rock, which is a style popularized by Carl Verheyen.
I think with intervals, octaves, 11ths, 9ths, 17ths, whatever you want.
In guitar lingo, this is also called string skipping, although that term describes more the technique than the note choices. Don't let the big jumps fool you into thinking they're playing hundreds of different notes. From a theoretical point of view, they're still only playing these 7 notes. They just like breaking them up across different octaves to make them sound more interesting. Can you see how there's already so much more to this than just shredding? The reason I'm going so deep into this is not to overanalyze, it's to show you how lots of small decisions stack up to create the bigger picture. Chords and chord progressions. There's an old concept in guitar called chord melody. That's when a guitarist plays the melody and the root notes simultaneously. Or sometimes even full chords. The way I see it, the whole goat riff is just basically a modern interpretation of a chord melody. But what are the actual chords doing exactly? Well, we can extrapolate that from the root notes. Our root notes here are B, C sharp, D, G, C sharp, A sharp. And if we take the harmonized B natural minor scale, we just add our chord names to the notes like this. The A sharp diminished is the only odd one out here since it's borrowed from the harmonic minor. This is also called modal interchange, which we'll talk about more in another video. Now here's the important part, the Roman numeral analysis. This is where chords stop being shapes and start becoming a reusable formula. It's pretty easy. We just take the harmonized minor scale, number it from 1 to 7 in Roman numerals because we're fancy, match it to our actual chord progression, and boom, we have a formula that can translate to any key and any tuning. But we can go even deeper. If we take into account the melody or other notes being played at the same time, they change the chord quality slightly to B minor, C sharp half diminished, D major, then G major 7, then C sharp diminished 11, and F sharp dominant 7 over A sharp. Add our Roman numerals again and we have an even more refined formula. Still the same chords fundamentally, it just sounds a little closer to the flavor of the actual song. Now let's move on to the rhythm, starting with the tempo. Goat tempo, 107 BPM. quite slow by modern rock and metal standards, and falls within the lower end of that walking pace tempo range. Slow enough for most rhythms to be felt clearly rather than just blur past. 16th triplets is where this tempo starts to feel shreddy. To me, quarter notes at this speed almost feels like walking forward with confidence or determination. Rhythmically, the song is not too complex, at least not from a guitar perspective. It's mostly quarter notes, eighth notes, and triplets, with the exception being that little 16th note gallop with the natural harmonics, and the flex run on the third repeat, which is 16th triplets. The drums naturally get way more rhythmically complex, with ghost notes on the hats, fast tom fills, broken rhythms with unexpected stops, and linear drumming. However, the band phrasing stays fairly simple. Side note, the drums are largely responsible for that trap sound Polyphia is known for. Now, simple doesn't automatically equal good. Their phrasing is how they make something seemingly simple sound super vibey. Their main rhythmic phrase goes as follows. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, triple, 3, triple, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then delay beat 1 of bar 1 on repeat. 1 and. This isn't exactly what every instrument is doing, but more how I think it feels with everything combined. Then from here, they develop the main idea and vibe throughout the song, changing things around but never deviating too far off. Expressions and techniques. It's important not to think of techniques as defining factors of the band's sound. They're really just tools for expression, not the core musical ideas. Melody, chords, and rhythm is really where the magic happens. Techniques are just tools for achieving those things and adding a bit of extra flair in the process. Polyphia love using the following techniques: natural harmonics, string skipping, hybrid picking, mini sweeps, ghost note slides, lots of them, tapping, and trem glitches. Drums. Lots of ghost notes and double stroke rolls, broken rhythms with unexpected stops, often linear drumming, fast tom fills, and no double kick pedal that I could hear, which is actually quite rare for this style. These drum techniques are actually what make up a large part of that trap sound. Bass, finger bass with lots of slapping and popping. Arrangement and instrumentation. For Goat, they use 2 electric guitars, 6-string guitars in standard tuning. Bass, 5-string bass in standard tuning. Drums, 5-piece kit with hats, ride, 3 crashes, 2 splashes, and 2 chinas. Don't quote me on this though, I'm not a drummer. Then in their backtracks they have Celesta, or that bell synth, the one you hear in the intro. Tuba to help certain rhythmic accents. Orchestral strings to heighten the emotion towards the end. A synth pad in the background to add size at certain points. Vocal samples, sometimes glitched out. This obviously varies from song to song. For example, many of their newer songs use nylon acoustic guitars. Some use 7-string, some use 8-string guitars, and their backing track elements will change drastically depending on how it's produced, etc. Production elements. Guitar tone. HH pickup configuration in the middle position with the coils split. This is what's commonly known as the split coil sound. Light drive with heavy compression. This is how they get that crunch sound. A slow and subtle chorus mod to add stereo width and air. In other songs, this is sometimes contrasted with high gain bridge humbucker leads. Drums. Acoustic kit mixed with heavy electronic elements like 808 kicks and digital hats. This is the other part of what gives them that trap sound. Bass. Overdriven with generous amounts of high mids and lots of compression, especially 100 Hz and below, also known as multiband compression. Additional layers and samples. As mentioned before, Goat has Celesta or bell sound, especially prominent in the intro and choruses. Orchestral layers like tuba or strings. Vocal samples, sometimes glitched out. Subtle synth pads. The mix. The kick feels super punchy with some saturation. In fact, the whole kit is slightly saturated. Snare feels rounded with a punchy low end and a shimmery high end. The guitars feel spanky and tight. The bass feels controlled and tight with enough high mids to stand on its own in the mix. The orchestral layers, samples, and synths are never at the forefront, but just adds depth and dynamic control. Reverb is not ever present, but creates a huge space in certain sections. Cohesion, how everything reinforces one clear aesthetic. This is the seventh and last element of Polyphia's sound. Here are a few notable ways that the band work together. The band is not rhythmically synced all the time, unlike metalcore for example, where most rhythms are kick synced almost all the time. The two guitars don't actually often play at the same time, but rather tag each other in from part to part, only adding extra harmonies or double ups some of the time. I don't actually see many bands doing this, so it's something to note. Cymbals don't only keep the downbeat, but often accentuate offbeat rhythms along with the guitar. Pretty common in modern metal adjacent genres. Bass often leaves space for the guitars, sometimes going silent for a full bar at a time. This creates a really cool feeling, almost like being suspended in mid-air. Main thoughts and conclusions. Now that we can see how all the puzzle pieces fit, we can draw more specific conclusions about the musical identity of our study piece Goat, and also partly the band as a whole. If I had to now summarize Polyphia's most iconic song in just a few words, I'd say catchy melodies at its core with shreddy filler notes in between, chord melody style arrangements on guitar, crunch tones but not fully distorted, we already knew that, intervallic rock style note choices with flamenco and neoclassical influence, trap or hip hop production elements mainly coming from the drums and synth, modern rock and metal aesthetic from the guitar and bass, simple rhythmic phrasing in motif sections contrasted by technical passages during the rest. Again, this analysis wasn't meant to simplify Polyphia or to try and put them in a box. It's really to help you understand the magic behind the music on a much deeper level so you can more effectively draw influence from it for your own songwriting. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to grab the roadmap down in the description. Drop a comment and tell me what your main takeaway was from this video, or let me know what you want me to do in the next Cypher Lab session. And see you in the next video. Cheers.